US and actually in many different countries as well.
I feel like we might be having some technical difficulties. Kathy, if you're asking questions, we're not hearing it. So I'll just go then. So I'm Sarah and I'm based in Temuka in New Zealand, and I'm a part of the World Travellers Fuzion Travel Group. So we've got agents throughout the country, a part of the Fuzion Travel Group, which is fantastic, ranging from Auckland right through to Dunedin and Queenstown. My specialty is probably going to be more in cruising and river cruising, and places that I've been, because I like to have the experience of having traveled somewhere to then be able to confidently on-sell it to my clients. And we're also able to reach out to some amazing suppliers and also our colleagues for their experience and knowledge and tap into that base. So Europe is sort of my forte, and group travel, as well as river cruising through Europe, and of course ocean cruising, which is exciting, and traveling into some unknown territory at the moment with this pandemic going on.
Yeah, there we go. This has just got a little bit of a delay on there. And I think what I'm going to do is not be so fancy and try so many different screens at once. There we go. There we go. Okay.
I think we lost Kathy again.
I think she's trying the multiple screens way too much.
Yeah. We're done with this multiple screen.
Here we are.
Yeah, we should have all three of us on there. Hey, look, I can see the whole party.
Yes.
Yay!
Can you hear me? You can hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Fabulous. Okay, good. Woo, jeez. Now I'm hot and sweaty because I was worried about there for a second. So tell me, ladies, just for, like where to get an idea of travel. Now, granted, I'm obviously in the real estate industry and business. So tell me like a little bit about where, as far as like the travel industry at this time of the year, kind of what do you typically experience?
I would say for me, this is a very busy time of year. If I had to say that this hit one of the possibly the worst seasons for us, that was probably it. Real life, excuse the dogs. So like I said,
I'm surprised mine didn't go off.
I mean, like we said, nobody should be at your front door, right? So I don't even know what that was. But, this was the height of our spring break season. This really, spring break season runs from around, across the country from essentially March through April. And so we have really seen the entirety of spring break for college and schools and really just about everybody, even our adults who plan to leave the kids with their grandparents and take their own trip during spring break. They've been affected by this as well. And so this is generally an extremely busy time for me. I'm more so at this point normally booking a lot of summer travel and then trying to get those spring breakers ready to travel with their itineraries. And, at this point, it's been rescheduling for fall break, trying to figure out, what they're going to do. So it's been a very different landscape for us.
Wow. So are you getting a lot of people that are just, are they canceling because number one, they're afraid, or are they thinking that they might get a better deal later in the year? Like what are you picking up as the main reason why they're canceling their vacations or postponing them?
A lot of my clients are canceling because the reservation has been canceled for them. I have a lot of hopeful travelers. I have a lot who were holding on until the last minute, and they're saying, I'm going until they tell me I can't go. And so, I love that. I love the spirit that they want to keep traveling, that they are looking forward to these vacations with their loved ones and their friends. And so, at this point, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, let's just be prepared for if that happens. If it's canceled, let's go ahead and have those backup dates in mind, so we can just go ahead and rebook this and move on, and get the best deal that we can right now for you.
It's good. That's nice to hear that they're still kind of like, let's go, let's do this.
And I think that comes out the longer that we're in. At first it was, very scary, and it's still very scary. But I think people are starting to get the itch to go out, and they're thinking, okay, let's move it to the fall, or even let's move it to early 2021. Let's give us something to look forward to. And I think that's a big thing.
Versus homeschooling. That's helping a lot.
Right. And I'll say this is the treat to yourself for all of that homeschooling that you did.
That's right. Yeah, I need a little something for that.
Exactly.
Now, Sarah, talk to me about what's going on the other side of the globe, because obviously, our destination is New Zealand. I would love to be there, but, obviously you guys are coming from the other side of the world. So what are you seeing over there? What's going on with what's your year like? Obviously you guys now at this time of year are starting to go into your winter months because your seasons are the opposite of us, right? So what's happening about this time of year for you?
So normally this time of year we're planning because we're coming into winter, everyone's winter break. So whether that is bringing people from Australia or wherever to New Zealand for skiing packages, snowboarding down Queenstown, Mount Hart, things like that, or if it's our freezing cold Kiwis who want to go see some sunshine. So naturally we chase the sun. So it's time when we're planning everyone's European trips, American trips, to go across to South America, or closer to home to go to the Whitsundays in Queensland in Australia and soak up that heat, or to the South Pacific Islands or Hawaii, so that we can defrost before we come back for work. And we're also really lucky because we get 4 weeks annual leave holiday a year. So, yeah.
I would love that. That would be awesome.
So we could take 2 weeks in winter, and then we could take 2 weeks at summertime over Christmas. So, or we could take 4 weeks over our winter and go and really explore the summer in the States, Canada, wherever. So this is usually a busy time for us with the last minute bookers, so to speak. And also because we've just had school holidays. Our government brought them forward. So it was part of our 4-week lockdown. So we would have had the April school holidays around Easter, and then we also would have our school holidays in July. So the families going to Fiji and things like that. So it normally would be quite busy, and instead it's the rescheduling, it's the cancellations, and trying to postpone, but we don't know when we can postpone to yet. So it's a bit of a catch-22.
So when you're saying like they're pushing, like they have the holidays going on, and so they're changing that with the school year. So do you find people are kind of like, well, we got this extra time, with the family all together, could we not take a trip somewhere? Are you finding any of those people trying to break the rules a little bit?
No, we're our level 4 lockdown is very, very strict. We couldn't even leave our local towns. So there was definitely, like, even over the Easter break, they set up checkpoints because I live in an area where we can go up to the lakes quite easily. It's only like an hour away. Lots of people got second homes up there. They were putting in checkpoints at those towns before you get to those lakes, saying if you're not living here permanently, turn around and go home. So there was none of that.
Yeah. Wow. It's a totally different experience here, because obviously now that's one of the things I want to talk to you about. What is your folks that are there in New Zealand, what's their perception of what's going on here in the States, and would they want any part of what's going on over here to go on vacation if they could?
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? I think we're all pretty well behaved. I mean, they put on the news the amount of warnings and things that the police have given out. And you have to remember that we are a lot smaller with our population of 4 million. So very tiny in comparison to the United States. But yeah, we see what's happening on the news with protests and people standing next to each other, and we're just like, go home.
Trust us, we are too.
What are you doing?
Yeah, we're saying the same thing here in the States. We're like, oh my goodness, stay home and stay away from me. It's a lot different. Now, actually interesting to note that you said you're about 4 million, and that's about the population of Charlotte, North Carolina. So what our population here is about the size of your entire country. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so in my health board region, we've had 16 cases of COVID-19, and everyone's been really good. We are primarily an agricultural and industrial area. So we do have a lot of people still going to work for providing food. So we've got the farmers, we've got the truck drivers, we've got McCains who do potatoes and veggies and things like that. So there is still a lot of work here. And I think probably if our primary industries weren't quite as big, then perhaps it would be a different scope on how we are taking things. But we move into level 3 on Tuesday next week. So it means more people can go to work. They're reopening some schools so that essential workers' kids can go to school. So it's a different scope and it's a different place and it is a different environment. But yeah, it's like the more people who stay home and we get rid of this thing, then it means we can travel again. So and we've got a lot of people that want to go to America and go to Disneyland and see the Grand Canyon.
That sounds like a great plan to all of us for you guys to do some traveling here to the States. Obviously, we would love some of those tourism dollars here in the States, but we'd also, Lindsay, we'd like to send some of us over to you as well, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna go off topic here a little bit, but I'm just kind of trying to figure out the differences between our countries to help our viewers get an idea of kind of what's going on with the economic side of things. Now, the United States, we've proposed and actually has passed to get a stimulus package to help all Americans to have a little bit of money, in our pockets to help us through these hard times while we are in the shelter-in-place orders. In New Zealand, what kind of things are going on? I mean, do they do anything like that to help the Kiwis get through this?
Yeah, so to help businesses keep staff employed, they immediately deployed a large package. So it means that every business who has an employee gets $585 a week for 12 weeks that we have to pass on to our employees. So that means that, okay, well, it may not be your normal wage, at least it is something. So you can pay your bills, you can get your groceries, you can keep your power on, things like that. The banks have also been really, really good in implementing holds on mortgages and going to interest-only payments. So we're all in quite a good place. They've increased the benefit for those beneficiaries. They've doubled the winter payment for pensioners. So there's been a lot going on in the background, and for small to medium businesses, they've also brought in some tax relief. So while the economy is sort of stalled a little bit, it's hopefully not going to be quite as bad as what it could have been.
Yeah, and I know what I'm thinking of, and this is kind of where I'm trying to tie this into, is that, a lot of travel is discretionary spending. And, when things start getting cut from our personal budgets, the first thing to go are the fun things like travel and going out to dinner and those kinds of things. And, in our country, we've obviously done some tax breaks for some of our corporations. We've also passed, some stimulus bills for every American, and every child. And then we've also, allowed for some grants and some loan monies for companies to keep payroll going. So that way we don't have to lose any payroll, to our employees. And just for the North Carolinians that might be actually watching this, it is actually on Friday, the 24th of April. If you're an independent contractor, 1099 employees, such as most realtors, you can actually, and Lindsay's one of them. So you'll be able to actually go to the state unemployment website or call into the office and make application to receive $600 per week for every employee, or actually for yourself, being self-employed. And that is actually kind of a pass-through. It's coming from the federal government. It's just administered at the state level. And North Carolina, along with a lot of other states, have had a lot of struggles dealing with folks that are self-employed, and saying that they can't understand that why we don't want to go look for more work, because we're going to be going back to work once the economy kind of comes back. And there's actually an additional, I think $350 per week, I think, a possibility. And I'm not really exactly clear on that and where that exactly comes into, but it's another shade of the CARES Act that they have enacted to help us with that. So let's start talking about, now we know where the money's coming from, and hopefully this will be a very short-lived type of situation. And let's say that I'm a traveler, and I've been thinking about traveling for a long time, and I want to get on my first vacation as soon as this stuff's over with. So Lindsay, I'm going to put you in the hot seat, and I'm going to go ahead. I want to spend some of this stimulus money and go on a quick vacation, say like a 3-day trip. What kind of things would you recommend to somebody, say here in Charlotte, say they wanted to, go see something, and they didn't have a large budget, but they wanted to go have a good break from this world that we're living in right now?
So I would say, right now, what we're finding, and I'm having a lot of clients who are honestly booking their flights first and deciding on letting that decide their destination. A lot of the airlines right now have fantastic deals on flights, and they have really flexible policies where if you book by a certain date, there are no change or cancel fees. So I'll have a lot of travelers who were saying, okay, well, let me look at my closest airport hub. Let me put in a few places that I've been interested in, and let me see what those flight prices look like. And so they get that great deal on that flight of some possibly not necessarily a bucket list vacation, but even from here, I've had a few who always wanted to say go to Vancouver, which isn't, too bad of a flight here from Charlotte, or they've wanted to go to Los Angeles. They're checking those flight prices and they're seeing, what they are and saying that flight's really cheap. I can build a trip from there. And so that's been, and it allows for more flexible travel because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how long this is going to last. And so I think travelers are more willing to book when they can see that flexibility up front, when they know that when they invest their dollars, there is a possibility that they can roll with the punches if things change. And so that's what I've told people. If you don't really have anything in mind, take a look and see what flight prices are. Take a look and see what your schedule is like and where you can go. And if that looks good, let's build out a trip from there. And then you have that flexibility on the back end.
So you're seeing like a lot of these cancellation fees and extra luggage fees and all this kind of stuff. Are you seeing those fees get waived, or are you seeing them disappear?
We are seeing a lot of airlines. Airlines are being incredibly flexible, either in offering future travel credits for travel up to 2 years for some airlines, which is, crazy. I believe there should be something passing soon with the Department of Transportation with the possibility if your flight was canceled and you had no control over that, about the possibility of getting a refund. We're still kind of working through that to see how that process works. A lot of vendors are being incredibly flexible. For example, cruise lines. You talked about travel being a discretionary item. Well, a lot of people in March and April already paid off their trip. They have already invested all of that money. Wow. That money has already, not to say it's gone, but they've already paid for it. They budgeted for it and they paid for it. And so I think that's why a lot of people are rebooking. They're saying, you know what? I've already invested that money. Let's just move it, because it could take a while for those refunds to come back. And, some cruise lines are offering bonuses, and even some all-inclusives and other third-party travel providers are offering, a 25% bonus on your reservation if you don't cancel and you just move it to a later date. And so there are a lot of incentives out there that allow you to not only keep your investment, but to build on it for a future travel.
Wow. Those are some good deals, 25%. So like I could upgrade the cabin I'm in on the cruise ship or something like that?
Absolutely. You can upgrade your cabin. And some of these, I've had a couple all-inclusives that could not travel. When we get that 25% bonus on their new reservation, we're going to upgrade their room. We could upgrade their resort. You could go from a garden view to an oceanfront room simply because you decided to rebook. And so I always say it's a really good idea to not have that knee-jerk reaction and say, just give me my money back, I can't travel. Talk about the options. figure out how far you can push it. You've invested that money and you could get a perk for what you've been on top of that investment. So that's a good way that you can plan for a future trip. And if you need to push it in 2021 to be more comfortable, do it. Have something to look forward to.
So where are some hot spots? So, actually I'll flip it back over to Sarah because she's sitting there a little quiet. I'll put you on the hot seat now this time. So if I'm going to find some great travel deals, what kind of stuff am I going to look for if I'm a Kiwi trying to find a great location to go to right now?
At the moment, our borders are shut. So
once it all, say I'm planning ahead, like with Lindsay, if I'm going to go ahead and make reservations for September or something.
I think for those who have already booked, I think with the flexibility and stuff that suppliers are actually having to put into place, I think it's potentially going to change how travel looks in the future, that we're not going to see as much of these non-refundable instant purchase sort of deals because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And they're having to change these policies. So hotspots of where to next, I think personally for us Kiwis, it's probably going to be close to home so that if something happens, we're not having to travel quite as far, and that perhaps that initial outlay isn't quite as expensive. I'm hoping that this will also mean that it's going to make some travel a bit more affordable because certain islands the flights have been ridiculously expensive. And of course that is the nature of economic supply and demand, the price goes up. But yeah, I think perhaps we'll see some more inclusive packages. We might see some less fees, or they might be starting to throw in some extras like your breakfast or cocktail hours and things like that more often, which will be really, really good. But yeah, as to where to next and what specials are going to come out, for us at the moment, we don't know.
Crystal ball. What do you got in your crystal ball?
I know, right? I need to employ a psychic.
That's right. Maybe I'll put one on the future Village Voice. We'll say ask them.
That'd be great. Because we love traveling.
I'm down with that.
Because we love traveling, and we're always traveling quite far. I mean, because we're on the other side of the world. To get to the UK, it's 24 hours of travel. There's no if, buts, or maybes about it. So it's definitely going to be interesting. For the foreseeable future, Air New Zealand have pulled a lot of their flights and a lot of their routings. So we don't know when that's going to come back or what will come back first. So it might be a matter of wait and see because we're not as big as America.
Right.
We have to fly somewhere overseas.
Everything's a travel. Everything's a haul is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sarah, to your point, I think that, I'm not sure if you're seeing this as well for those who are already booked, but we have found that taking that wait and see approach, if you have that flexibility, is the best way to go. A lot of travelers that we, and it's completely understandable that when all of this started happening and that fear, it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction to cancel. And so at that time, you might have been subject to the vendor's standard cancellation fees. Whereas if you have that flexibility just to hang on a little bit, a lot of these vendors are either extending their final payment dates, they are relaxing some of those cancellation fees, or, heaven forbid your trip gets canceled for you, and then those vendors are offering you even better incentives to come back and rebook. And so that's really been kind of my recommendation. I know a lot of the recommendation for my agency is when you have that flexibility, just take a breath and wait and see. Don't cancel yet. We can talk about the policies and cross that bridge when we get there. But hang on to that. And then we can talk about what that landscape looks like, especially for the end of the year, because it changes so fast. Things are changing so quickly that none of us know what's going to happen.
Well, so, in some cases in my little world of real estate, that it's like literally like by the hour or by the day policies and things are changing, like loan packages and things like that. So, to ask us where we're going to be in a month is impossible, let alone tomorrow or next week. So I get that.
Right.
let me ask you this, as far as like, because I'm sure there's a few folks out there that are still kind of on the fence, because I mean, we all love to travel. Come on, that's something that's great. But there may be some people that are a little bit now tentative about it. They may be a little scared. What kinds of things have you guys seen as far as what safety precautions or adjustments have been made to accommodate, and I hate to use this phrase, but everybody's using it now, the new normal, but to make sure that we've got a more sanitary travel environment, like, or secure. So Sarah, actually, what have you seen over there?
I mean, we have seen social distancing on flights, whether that is domestic or international. Obviously, we've also got a lot of repatriation flights going on. So we've had the likes of Lufthansa down here to take Germans home, and we've had Air New Zealand flying over to Europe to bring Kiwis home and things like that. So a lot of disinfectant, extra cleaning on board these flights. I mean, cruise ships have always been quite good with their hygiene practices, but it does come down to the actual person. So those hand sanitizer things are there as you enter the restaurant for a reason. So I think we're going to see more often that actually people are going to use them, which is a good thing. But yeah, for the flights, I mean, Emirates are trialing testing at Dubai Airport. And I've seen pictures of their cabin crew wearing full, gloves and the masks, and then the visors, and then they've got the thing over the uniform. So the PPE is really, really good for the crew. So it's good to see that the airlines are taking care of their staff as well as the passengers. And yeah, social distancing on flights is going to be a new thing. Instead of cramming, say, 80 people onto a flight, there might only be 20 to keep everyone apart. So for a while, it's going to look very, very different. And they're already having to implement these measures so that everyone can travel safely. I mean, at the moment, it's not travel for leisure, it's travel just to get home, or travel for business. So it's a bit of a different landscape, but it'll be interesting to see how they carry these things on once borders start to reopen.
Well, for somebody like me who's got a lot of long legs, I'm going to love this fact of having less people on an airplane so I can stretch out. For instance. It'll be great for me. But okay, so I mean, my industry is changing. Obviously, these changes that you're talking about, Sarah, we're definitely in a changed world. Lindsay, let me hop this back to you. As far as like how your world has changed, as far as like, your interactions with your clients, presenting, new travel options and stuff like that. How do you see the industry changing to, include travelers in what's, all the excitement of what you guys have going on a regular basis? How are you changing your world?
So I think a lot of what we're going to see, and I was actually attended a webinar this week that I thought was very interesting, and they said that they think that we're going to see a lot more of selfish travel is what they called it. I thought it was an interesting term, but people who have been cooped up with their kids for the past 2 months, parents who have never taken a vacation for themselves are going to start thinking about that type of a vacation. That we're going to start seeing a lot more bucket list travel, because, you sit here and you think, with everything going on, you automatically think, what have I been waiting for? Because you never know when the next thing is that's going to happen. And so a lot of this has got people thinking about that bucket list travel. My job has changed a lot as far as I'm doing a lot more, not necessarily research now on what's opening and keeping up to date with that and the new trends in travel. And it's more so keeping up with new policies, making sure that I have all of that information on how the travel landscape is changing, what these different resort brands are doing, what Disney World is doing. I'm attending a ton of webinars, and it's really, and I'm sure, Sarah, you're seeing the same thing, trying to stay on top of it, of all of these different vendors is a whole job in itself, so you can better inform your clients. It's not uncommon for me to tell somebody something one day and then boom, it changes, and I'm, sending them an email the next day and saying, I didn't lie to you, but this just changed. And so a lot of times the change is for the better. A lot of times the change is to allow for more flexibility. But yeah, it's really trying to stay on top of this to, I have tried to more so ignore mainstream news and stay on top of travel news. Look at our travel vendors and our supporters and our suppliers and see what they're saying and what the owners of all of these resorts are saying about their brand and what they're doing to make travel safe. And then getting that communication out to give a little bit of a good feeling that they're on top of this. They've been hit hard by this, and we're not in the business of crushing dreams. We're in the business of happy events. And, and so that is just trying to keep that positivity up and still make that happen is the job. It really is.
It is. I mean, and that's the happiest thing. I mean, because people look forward to this, Sarah, you're in your world, it's 4 weeks of vacation. For us, it'll take a couple. But it's something that everybody on this planet looks forward to. Right. Now, to kind of sum everything up, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys both a little bit of time here each. And if you would tell me, as, not somebody in the travel industry, but someone like me, just a traveler, what can we do? I mean, obviously it's impacted you. Tell us a little bit about how it's impacting your life and how the heck, somebody like me can help support you. So let's start with you, Sarah.
I think it comes down to supporting your locals. I mean, we shop locally, so it'd be great to have that support in return. And to delay, don't cancel your travel, because you wanted to go there for a reason in the first place. That reason's still there. It's just that you might not be able to go when you plan to go, just to keep you safe. So instead, take that time and delay it to 2021. Some airlines have released policies and tour companies and cruises through to 2022. So the time will still be there to travel. It's just we're all going to have to be a little bit more patient. But yeah, definitely, I think take the time to know the businesses in your town or your community and to really support the locals. And I've found that a lot of people who were, I'm cool with booking online, I can do it all myself, I don't need a travel agent. Do you want to spend 8 hours on hold to an airline to get an answer? Nah. No. Let us do that for you. But I mean, our prices aren't any more expensive than online, and you're getting that personal service. And that I've had phone calls at 2 a.m. in the morning going, I'm stuck. What do I do? Where do I go? And just having that instant answer instead of having to Google it or put a post out on Facebook. You can actually get in touch with a real human being who supports your community, puts money back into the community, and can help you when you need it.
Right. Well, Lindsay, what's going on in your world? So tell us how this has impacted you and how, we Charlotteans, I guess, as it may be, or anyone, I guess you guys can handle anybody in the U.S., not just here in Charlotte. Right. So how can we help support you?
So, I think a lot of people, the first step is kind of understanding in kind of how travel agents are compensated. Really, I think a lot of people think that I'm an independent contractor. Sarah, I'm not entirely sure how you're set up, but I'm an independent contractor. And so therefore I'm a small business and, I'm part of an organization and part of a company, but I do have my own small business. And so, all that work that we do, those 8 to 10 hours that we spend on hold changing, we don't get paid for that. We get paid when you travel. Yeah. And so when you cancel that travel, no matter what we've done prior to that point, that we don't get paid for that. The vendors don't provide payment until you actually travel. And so, that delaying, I think we've said we can handle delayed commission. Canceled commission is what's scary. We can plan for delayed. And I think a lot of us, and especially right now, our business is so focused on internet because we can't have that personal interaction. So if you have, your agent, especially if somebody you've worked with or one of your local agents, like their business page, share some of their posts, tell others about them, say, hey, the next time that you travel, check out this person. You can still interact with us online, and we would love that. We've really tried, I know as an agency, Marvelous Mouse Travels has tried to strike a healthy balance between promoting travel deals and just promoting travel fun. Sharing recipes from our favorite resorts, sharing games, things like that, sharing pictures of past vacations. We're trying to remind people why they love to travel. And so if you see a post like that, engage with us. We would love that. Share that. And that just kind of keeps the conversation going, and it keeps the positive conversation going. And I think that's what really helps us in the future in kind of calming that fear and keeping our small businesses going as well.
Wow. And I think it's true for all of us. It's just the loss of human interaction that we've had,
Right.
because we don't get to see you guys. We don't get to, give you a hug when I see you, or whatever it may be. And as a side note, by the way, my audience that's watching this is, I've known Sarah way too long. It was very small. And Lindsay and I sing together. So, I've got some long history with both of you guys. And the first thing I would do is just give you guys a big giant hug. And that would just make all of our lives complete there. But it's the loss of that suddenly, I think, is so disconcerting to us.
And also, I love getting the return trip emails and letters.
Yeah.
Those make my day. And if you want to ask why I do this, having a child on a vacation send me a letter and tell me how magical their Disney trip was and how much fun they had, or a couple say this was the most wonderful honeymoon, we couldn't have done, that's what we work for and that's what we live for. We get that, and that's when you sit there and go, okay, I don't care how many hours I spent on this. This just brings a big smile to your face. And so I think for us too, the loss of that feedback from the travel, gets to us, because we like to see you happy. We like to see that you had a wonderful time and that you created those memories. And, we're missing that right now.
Right. Well, I refer to that as the emotional paycheck, and that's, for me in my job, it's, yes, it's nice to get paid at the end of the day, but it's also knowing that, I was there to help, someone who, may be downsizing to their final home, that they're going to downsize in Boca, get that great place. Or if it winds up they just got married and they're looking for a home to start their family in. It gives me chills just talking about that, to be able to go away for the, at the end of the day, and to do that quick mirror check of, okay, did I do a good job today? And to know that I helped change somebody's life by just showing up at work is immeasurable. So I totally get it, ladies. And by the way, I don't know if you happen to know Christy Featherstone. She just chimed in. So she said
Christy's hanging on with me for Turks and Caicos for the end of the year. We're going to make this happen.
Yep. So she just mentioned that that you're helping her out with Turks and Caicos. So that's a great check-in. I love it. I love it, guys. And I just want to thank you guys so much for checking in, and Lindsay and Sarah coming in and giving us some expert, insight into the world of travel, and to know kind of what you guys are struggling with, and what we need to know as travelers, to make the next step, to go on our journey, our no longer staycation, as it were, after this is all over with. But, I just thank you so much for chiming in and giving us that insight. And my viewers, on Friday, this Friday coming up on the 24th, I want you to tune in, especially like Lindsay. I heard your pup over there barking earlier. We have an animal behaviorist, Drea Dunkel, is going to be here. She's a Samoyed breeder as well as a really great expert animal behaviorist. And so she's going to give us some insights, because there have been a lot of pandemic puppies, so to speak, that have appeared on the scene. A lot of people have adopted. And a lot of people are, like I am, kind of experiencing some behavioral issues out of your pet through this quarantine period, which we've never expected. So I definitely want you to tune in on Friday. It's at 7:00, and same channel, same bat channel, same bat time. Join us and be part of our village here at the Village Voice. And, just do one kind thing for someone. You never know what one good deed might do. You might change a life. So at the very end of this broadcast, I'm going to go ahead and put up the information for Lindsay and Sarah, and myself, of course. So if you'd like to join in a future episodes as an expert panelist, please let me know. Please reach out to me. But in the meantime, please, I want you to reach out to Sarah and Lindsay and support them and their businesses here and abroad. So Thanks again, Kathy Smith from the Village Voice. Good night.
Night.
Night.